Many talk about the fall of Rome and what it meant for the world at the time. Well, functionally, I believe we're actually looking at the fall of the American system. I hate to use hyperbole, and I don't think I am in this instance. In many ways, this has actually already happened, and now we wait to see what will take its place. And make no mistake, something will take its place. The news of the day shows us that there are many in America that don't want to be in America anymore. They don't like what it stands for, they don't like where we've come from, and they don't like where we're going. So they want to create something new, something different. That is what we are seeing happen even now. And we're going to look at a little bit of the news and a little bit of history and a little bit of what it means to live in America today. Welcome to Church Public. I'm Matt Odegaard. Well, again, welcome back to Church Public. Thank you so much for joining me here today. There's just a lot going on in the world, and we've talked about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. But I've just been thinking on a larger scale. What is really going on? What is really going on in the world? And that's just the way that I tend to think, because I tend to think bigger. I tend to think about, where is this all going? And I look back and see, well, where have we come from? And I mean, I've even got on the shelf behind me, if you're not watching, you can check this out on the video on churchpublic.com or YouTube. And if you are listening on audio, I really appreciate you. Go ahead and like and subscribe and give me a review. It really helps to help other people know about this, because I want people to know about what is going on. It seems like people don't understand the realities of this world at the moment and how fast the culture is crashing in. And I really want people to be ready for what comes next. And I really believe we're on the edge. We're on the brink of something that is going to come next. And I don't think it's going to be very good. And I don't mean to be a naysayer or a doomsday predictor. That's not really what I'm saying at all, because I still believe in the truth of the Bible. I still believe God has this under control. I still believe in the power of Jesus. But as believers, we need to be ready for what this culture is going to throw at us. And it will. It will throw things at us, because we are at a place where this culture is more and more going to become hostile to Christianity in America. You're seeing it play out in the UK. You're seeing it play out in Canada. You're seeing it play out in Australia. You've seen it in various places across America, even in here in America, in different states and different cities. And we are going to see more and more of this. This is what is going to happen, because we don't know who we are. We don't know who we are as an identity. We don't know who we are as a theology. We don't know what we stand for, and you see that specifically in Afghanistan. We talked about that a little bit in the Afghanistan episode and a couple of episodes, so go back and check those out if you missed those, either on your favorite podcast platform or at churchpublic.com. Go and listen to those, because I explain why this is not just about, it's not just about policy, it's not just about it's not just about foreign policy, it's not just about these things, it's about theology. It's about, what do you believe? Who is God? What does that mean to you? And how do we relate to other countries or ourselves? And what does that mean? And we just don't know anymore. In the last few months, America elected really the most far left president perhaps in American history. There are some front runners that happened around the turn of the 20th century. But even at that, some of the policies we're seeing go forward are more progressive than anything we have ever seen before. And what that means in terms of theology, what it means in terms of religion, what it means in terms of your faith is, what are you going to be allowed to do? The original founders wrote in this idea that you have the ability to say whatever you want to say, and you're able to worship whomever you want to worship. This idea of religious freedom, this idea of freedom of expression and freedom of religion. And now we're at a point in this culture, in this country, really in this world, where that is not the case anymore. You cannot say whatever you want to say. If you don't believe me, go on social media and say some of the things that you're not allowed to say. I'm not going to say them right here. I've said them in the past, and I will say them in the future. But I'm just seeing so many of my friends and people that I get my sources from being kicked off these platforms, because you cannot say anything you want to say anymore. You cannot worship in any way that you want to worship anymore. We're seeing the way that these things are coming at you now, and it's I wouldn't say it's scary. I'm not scared of it. It's frustrating. It's sad. It's sad that people throw away their freedoms so easily and apparently don't care and don't even believe that it matters that much. There are so many people that I run into that believe this freedom we have apparently just happens by accident, or happens when you get the systems out of the way and you get the government out of the way. Then we just live in peace and harmony. That was the theme of the song Imagine when it was written, and it is the theme of every Olympics that we've seen when they play Imagine at the beginning of it. Imagine there is no country, no religion, no hostility, and everyone will live in harmony. The reality, while that sounds amazing, the reality in real life, outside of the fairy tale of songwriting, is that's not how it plays out. Freedom is not free. Freedom costs a lot. It costs regular people a lot. It costs soldiers a lot. It costs the people who stand up for truth. It costs them a lot. And those that stand up for truth, like us, are going to have to start saying the true things regardless of how popular it is. Or, on the opposite side, regardless of how unpopular it is and how much people are going to push against that. That has always been true. We've had this little hiatus in the middle of this American experiment where it's been more true, and we're moving out of that. I believe it's done. I believe the American experiment is done, and now we have to decide what we want to be. What are we going to be now? Because this government, the people running the government, want the leftist policies. They want the socialism it brings. They want to be told what to do. And the problem is not even the people who are running it. And here's why. The problem is the election that preceded this. There is apparently a large group of people in America who want this. I'm not even talking about integrity issues. I'm not going to talk about that right now. I don't even think that matters right now. It does matter a lot. It matters that elections are free and fair. That's true. But there are people, and apparently a large amount of people in America, who want these leftist policies. They want socialism. They want to be told what to do. They want no freedom. They want safety instead of freedom. And this is the new era that we are in. We're in this new era where now we cannot have America. We cannot have the Constitution. Sure, there are people like me who still believe in the idea of America, who still believe in the Constitution, and who still believe in the basis of truth, which is Jesus, which formed the ideas that eventually got into the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, etc. But most people don't believe that. Or at least they don't say they believe that. And this is part of the problem. I just read a study. I'll look it up here in just a second here. Let's see. I just read this study that 60% of people under 30 who believe in Jesus, sorry, I'm just reading the study. 60% of people who believe in Jesus, who say they're Christians, right? 60% of young Christians between the ages of 18 and 39 believe that Jesus is not the only way. Now, to those of you out there who are some sort of theologian, or at least have read their Bible, and read John or any of the Gospels really, or any of the letters from the disciples and the apostles, know from Jesus' mouth himself, Jesus says he's the only way. But we have 60% of young Christians saying Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, they're all equal paths to salvation. They're all the same way. It's no problem. We can just go in whatever direction we want and we will all reach salvation. Now, again, pluralism is nothing new, but what is new is these people believe they are Christians. These people believe they're Christians. These people believe that there's all different ways to salvation, and these people have been taught this in school. They've been taught universalism. They've been taught that America is racist. They've been taught that America must be torn down and rebuilt and something put in its place. And they've been taught that socialism, real socialism, of course, when you talk to them, real socialism has never been tried. Therefore, that's the only way to go, and it is good. This is the problem that we're seeing in schools, and this is what is happening and being taught to our children in schools. So if you think schools are a neutral experience, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Schools are not a neutral experience. Schools are a negative experience if you believe in the Bible, if you believe in America, if you believe in the ideals of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, or that we are all equal under the law, or that that we should all have the same opportunity to live in this world and to do our best and to be made in the image of God, one nation under God. And I'll give you an example. This is a video that I came across, and this video is a school teacher talking about the Pledge of Allegiance and talking about the flag. And I will let this teacher talk about the flag. I will let this teacher explain to you why the flag, what do I say? I can't even do it justice. So I'm going to let this teacher tell you about the flag, and then we'll talk about what this teacher says about the flag. Here you go.
If you feel like it, say the words if you want, don't have to say the words. So my class decided to stand but not say the words. Totally fine. Except for the fact that my room does not have a flag. It used to be there, but I took it down during COVID because it made me uncomfortable. And I packed it away and I don't know where, and I haven't found it yet. But my kid today goes, hey, it's kind of weird that we just stand and then, we say it to nothing. And I'm like, oh, well, I gotta find it. Like, I'm working on it. I got you. In the meantime, I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he looks around and he goes, oh, that one?
So, if you're not watching, if you're just listening, you may not appreciate the horrible nature of what's being shared here. So, first of all, we're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is designed to help us all understand the ideal of America and the idea that we are all equal under the law and under God, and that when we rally under this flag that represents our nation, where we are e pluribus unum, from the many, one, which is a really important concept. You may have seen it, you may have heard it. It's a really important concept of America in that we all do come from different places. We're not like France. We're not like Sweden, where we came and we didn't come. We were part of the nation based on whatever you want to call it, a race or a similar group of people. From the beginning in America, we were not a similar group of people. We were a similar idea of freedom, of life and liberty for all. So this teacher says the flag makes her uncomfortable. And if you're not watching and you heard at the end, she said, well, I got rid of the flag and I don't know where it is. Hee hee, haha, I guess I lost it. I don't know where any stores are in America to buy a new American flag because I don't like the American flag. So I'm just not going to buy a flag and pretend I lost it and pretend we can't find an American flag in America at every store possible or online. No, we have a flag in our classroom, student. This is the one you can pledge your allegiance to. This isn't me talking. This is this teacher saying you can pledge allegiance. So if you are not seeing this, they're pointing to the pride flag. And actually, it's not the pride flag, and I haven't even done an episode on this because it would take a long time, and I will at some point. But it's the pride flag plus. This is the LGBTQ AAIP plus flag because it has additional colors and again, I'll do some other episodes on the additional colors because there's actually no end to the colors, and it becomes problematic in itself. But this is the flag now you can pledge your allegiance to. And this is not a small thing. And the reason this is not a small thing, and I'll point to Afghanistan, I'll point to the Olympics, I'll point to a bunch of different places, because the American flag is a national flag. The American flag is a flag that represents America, and it represents America and the idea of America. And again, this is what we've been talking about. It is a good idea to tell people that they all have value and they're all equal under the law, because then they have every right, this is where rights are actually a thing, every right to do the best they can and grow their wealth, their family, and grow into, really sky's the limit, right? Some of the richest people in the history of America didn't go to college, just worked hard and succeeded. No, this flag is not an American flag. This is the pride flag, and the pride flag is a universal flag. And it really is an imperial flag. And what that means is it's about more than a country, because the idea is here, this flag represents all people everywhere. This flag has been flown on many U.S. embassies around the world. This flag has been flown in Kabul at the embassy that has just fallen to the Taliban because of the incompetency of the president, just to put it plainly. And this flag represents not America, but everything. It is an imperial idea. And that's why I started saying, really, the Republic of America is over. The Democratic Republic of America was an idea based on this e pluribus unum, based on the idea that we all have an opportunity for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is not the idea of many people in America now. They want this imperial idea. They want the idea represented by this other flag, that their ideas are better ideas and everyone in the world should adopt them, and they're going to send them across the world. There have even been protests from other countries to America by America flying this pride flag, because this doesn't represent everybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because people apparently want this, and they don't want America anymore because the schools have told them that America is bad. The schools have told them that Christianity is bad. The schools have told them that God is bad. The schools have told them that Jesus is the same as Buddha, is the same as Muhammad. They're all the same, so just choose whatever you want, make up whatever you want, and follow whatever you want, and everything is spiritual, but I'm not going to be religious, and I'm not going to be hemmed into one particular way because all ways are good. And the reality is it's not true. Jesus himself says, I am the truth, the way, the life. No one comes to God but by me. Jesus made it very clear to Pilate that he is the truth. That Pilate responded and said, well, what is truth? I don't believe that. I don't believe there is a constant truth. This is nothing new, and yet it is more prevalent than it has been for many, many years, and hundreds of years at that point. People don't understand anymore that tyranny is bad. They want these leaders telling them what to do. We've seen that firsthand this year. We've seen people, and we've been told what to do, when to do, where to go, where we can't go, what we have to wear. And for the most part, many people agreed. There are many, many people who are more than fine accepting the government's role to tell them what to do and when. Of course, there are others who still believe in freedom, who still believe that we should be able to do what we want to do under the law of God, protected by the law of this government. But more and more, we're seeing this government go its own way and decide that its ways are better ways. And we've talked at length about this in other episodes, that their foundation is on whatever they feel is right at the time, like these other flags, like other ideals, progressive ideals, leftist ideals, but they're not biblical ideals. And in fact, everything has been turned upside down, where biblical ideals are now oppressive and bigoted and misogynistic, and on and on and on. You see this clearly played out, this tyranny that the government is doing in this eviction moratorium. And we've talked about in the past this particular issue, but it's important to bring up again because the Supreme Court has weighed in on this again. Effectively, the federal government, outside of any law, getting in the middle of private citizen contracts about land ownership and rentals, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, said, quote, I can't guarantee this move is constitutional, but the administration will keep this going for a while, so we're going to do it anyway. President Biden said out loud that the move he was doing was not constitutional, to keep this eviction moratorium going. But he went ahead and did it anyway. In olden days, some might call this tyranny. When a leader knows the law, knows they're not following the law, but does what they want to regardless, again, many people would call that tyranny. And then the enforcement of this comes through the agency of the CDC. The CDC. That's such a strange thing to say. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is the one not only bringing this eviction moratorium to whatever law, I guess you could say, even though it's not a law, but also creating enforcement policies for it with monetary penalties if you don't let people stay in your home for free, risking your bankruptcy and who knows what else. And this is a problem. And I do want to look at a couple of things here. I do want to look at the Supreme Court because last Thursday they ruled on this again, and they said that no, you can't do this. But is that going to matter? Is that going to make any difference? Is it going to change the Center for Disease Control's overarching and not constitutional ability to enforce this eviction moratorium? Who knows? Because at this point, we're not following the Constitution. We're not following the separation of powers. Again, if the president says this probably isn't along the lines of the Constitution, but I'm going to do it anyway, then we're not in a constitutional republic anymore. I mean, we're just not. And again, this is not even about one person. We'll talk about this more, but this is about the people supporting this. And by and large, news reports don't care. The media doesn't care. The celebrities and academics don't care. They're fine with this. They're like, sure, why don't you just do this? We don't care if you do it or not. We don't care if it's constitutional or not. It doesn't matter. Sure, the Supreme Court, I mean, I'll read some of this to you. They're saying that that he is not allowed to do this. And let's see. We vacate that stay, rendering the judgment enforceable. They're saying, no, we cannot do that. So the Supreme Court said they're arguing that they denied the application to vacate the stay and that the CDC should not further extend the moratorium, but it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. They noted this too. This is what the CDC provision states. I'll read this for you. The Surgeon General, with the approval of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, is authorized to make and enforce such regulations as, in his judgment, are necessary to prevent, listen to this, this is a quote, introduction, transmission, or spread of communicable disease from foreign countries into the states or possessions, or from one state or possession to any other state or possession, end quote. So that is the rule of law that the CDC is saying gives them the right to not let landlords kick out their renters. Did you hear anything in there about property or renting? I heard don't let communicable disease go from one state to another. I mean, I guess presumably if a renter kicked out, if a landlord kicked out their renter, they could go to another state, but that seems like a far off chance. And the Supreme Court agreed. And the problem, they say, is this is the kind of power the CDC claims here. At least 80% of the country, 6 to 17 million tenants are at risk of eviction, falls within that moratorium. While the parties dispute the financial burden on landlords, Congress has provided nearly $50 billion in rental assistance, a reasonable proxy, and the issues are not merely financial. It intrudes into an area that is of particular domain of state law, the landlord-tenant relationship. And it says, going on, the government's read would give the CDC a breathtaking amount of authority. It's hard to see what measures this interpretation would put outside the CDC's reach. And the government has identified no limit beyond the requirement the CDC deem a measure necessary, quote unquote. Could the CDC, for example, this is the Supreme Court, could the CDC mandate free grocery delivery to the homes of the sick or vulnerable, require manufacturers to provide free computers to enable people to work from home, order telecommunications companies to provide free high-speed internet to facilitate remote work? This claim of expansive authority under 361A is unprecedented, end quote. Again, this is the problem here. The problem here is that the CDC has no authority in this matter. The president said, it doesn't matter, we're doing it anyway. The Supreme Court said you have no authority in this matter, and we'll see what happens, but my guess would be nothing is going to happen, and nothing is going to change because President Biden is in control, or whoever is telling him to do things, which is a question mark at this point. They're in control. And the American people don't care. That's the bigger problem. It's not just about one bad president, because we have issues. I mean, we have rules to deal with a bad president. I mean, the last president was impeached several times over things like phone calls. But it doesn't seem like anybody wants to do anything about it. And that's the problem. It's that the people don't want this anymore. They don't want America anymore. And of course, we turn to Afghanistan because that's obviously a really good, clear example of this. It's probably the worst military decision in America's history. And that decision was apparently made wholly and solely by President Biden. It seems that many, if not all, of the security and military leaders said the timing and method of this withdrawal was bad or worse. Biden bears responsibility because we have moved beyond a constitutional republic. He is the one who made this decision. And as I mentioned, the previous president was impeached over several things like phone calls. So there are ways to deal with this. Nobody seems to want to. Nobody seems to care. The current president, caused the death of 13 of our own military and hundreds of local people, plus has now shut down the airport entirely, and there is no way to get the apparently unknown thousands of American troops or American citizens who are still in country out. That's the latest report that I have read. Plus, the president gave the Taliban some 80 billion with a B, billion dollars in American weapons and tanks and equipment and guns, and handed them a list of important American and Afghan people to, quote, help get into the airport, which functionally now apparently has become a kill list for some of our terrorist enemies. So what is next? I have no idea. We have had an unprecedented freedom for all races and classes and creeds and religions in America. Yes, before you jump all over this, I know there have been problems, and I know from day one we weren't there, but we worked really hard to get there. And we still have a ways to go, but do you throw it all away because we haven't made it 100%, or do you continue to pursue it? That's the question. And in history, the amount of freedom and self-government that America has had is without equal. We're moving out of this season. We're moving out of the place where we can say whatever we want through the First Amendment. Again, we talked about this before, but just try and say something on social media that is not approved, or at your job that is not approved, and see how fast you're canceled or fired or banned. We're moving out of the season where you can go wherever you want. Just watch the different types of passports that are coming up and try to visit the places with these restrictions. If you don't have the appropriate papers, you will not be able to. Even churches are getting in on this. We're moving out of the season of peace through strength. Our military, not our soldiers by and large. I know there are a lot of great soldiers out there who are willing to do whatever they need to do, but our military leaders have lost perspective. We have ads that have come out over the past several weeks for LGBT soldiers, and we have generals leading diversity and sensitivity trainings instead of saving actual American lives in a terrorist-held country like they are right now. We've lost our perspective, and I don't know if we can even get it back because the people don't want it. Now, I'm not worried from a kingdom perspective. Historically, the church has actually grown more under persecution than in times of peace. That's true. However, I will say, though I'm not worried, my message to believers is strengthen yourself. Stand strong in your faith because we are entering a new era. You will need your faith to get through the next season. You will have to choose to follow God or not, and it will have real consequences. You will have to decide if you really have, like Peter says, an answer for the hope that God has given you. Do you really have that? Are you willing to say that? Are you willing to take the punishment and the repercussion for saying that? You may be denied access to businesses or cities or states or churches based on what you do or say. You may be denied jobs. You may lose your economic freedom or prosperity at all. And this time is coming. It really is. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the right people can rally. I hope that something different will happen. But again, this isn't about one leader. This is about the people who don't want this anymore. This is about the decades and decades and generations of children who grew up in the system learning that America was bad, that the flag is bad, that what we stand for is bad, that Christianity is bad, that white people are bad, that God is bad. They've learned all these things and now they're applying them. You can't even blame them because they don't know any different. That is where we come in. We come in because with the truth of Jesus, we can step in and say, there's a better way. But will we do that in time to save the idea, the experiment that was the American democracy, the American Democratic Republic? I don't know. I don't know that we can. Again, I'm not being a naysayer or a doomsday predictor. I'm just saying, let's be real about what is happening. We're seeing it unfold every single day, and now we have to act in a certain way. And really, from the core of your being, I'm saying to you, believer, you're going to need to stand up. You're going to need to speak for truth, or you will end up in a place where you've compromised your values, you've compromised your beliefs, and you don't even know how to get out of it anymore. And I don't want you to be in that place. I don't think God wants you to be in that place. Paul, Jesus, many other writers over and over say, be thankful if people persecute you for following Jesus. We're entering that time again. You need to be ready. And we need to have joy through it. We need to know that God has got us, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the world around us, as swirly-whirly as it gets. We can continue to lean on him, to know that God will bless us in plenty or in lack, and he will help us if we lean on him to keep the faith. God bless, and we'll see you next time.